Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Mark chapter 13, verses 1 through 2. Such a small reading. And watch me just expand it to be a 15-minute video. But this is actually a rather important introduction because we are now introducing what is called the Olivet Discourse. And the reason it's called the Olivet Discourse is because this is the place where Jesus gives a discourse. He gives a teaching, an elongated teaching on the Mount of Olives. And this is about end times. This is about Jerusalem. This is about the future of Jerusalem. And mixed within that prophecy, the Olivet Discourse, is about the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD and also about the consummation of the kingdom, the ending of the kingdom at the end of the ages. And so over the next few days, we'll be walking through the Olivet Discourse as Mark records it. In the Olivet Discourse appears in Matthew, Mark, and Luke in the synoptic gospels, as they call. Those are the three gospels that seem to come from the same perspective. John, when he writes his gospel, is just from just a totally different perspective. Matthew, Mark, and Luke seem to have the order in a very similar way. And so we see the Olivet Discourse in both Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And so we're going to look at the Olivet Discourse from Mark's perspective. I probably will bring in some Matthew and some Luke to give us a little bit of context and to fill out the Olivet Discourse a little bit more. So Olivet Discourse means that is that place where Jesus gives his major teaching about the end times and the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. And the reason we know it's also the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD is because of the changes and tweaks that Luke gives in his telling of the Olivet Discourse. So 2 verses. And as he came out of the temple, remember, Jesus has come into Jerusalem. It's Palm Sunday. He's been received. And then he has then experienced throughout the week various challenges. The religious leaders are trying to trip him up, and he silenced them with the way that he answered and by asking a question of his own. So he's done all of that. And so now we see him coming out of the temple. And as they have left the temple, they are probably ascending the Mount of Olives. They're going up, and so as they go up, if you would look back, you would see the temple very clearly. And it was white buildings, white stones, huge white stones that Herod built the temple with. And it would be beautiful. It would glisten in the sun. So you can imagine as the disciples are ascending the Mount of Olives, Peter or John or James, somebody pokes Jesus on the back and said, "Look at that building. Isn't that so cool, that temple? Look, teacher, what wonderful stones and what wonderful buildings. Isn't it pretty? Isn't the temple so beautiful?" And Jesus said to him, "Do you see these great buildings? Do you see the temple? Do you see all of this beautiful stuff that Herod has built? There will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." And that's a promise to claim. That's a promise, is that Jerusalem would be destroyed. And it was destroyed in 70 AD. Right there. This is not really a promise for us to claim, other than God gives us the promise. We see it actually fulfilled when Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD. The temple was burned. Rome came in and absolutely destroyed it. And ultimately, from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective, the reason this judgment came upon Jerusalem is because they rejected their Messiah. But I don't want to stop there. I want to always bring in Romans, the book of Romans, where the Apostle Paul says that God has not forgotten his people. He's not forgotten the Israelites. He's not forgotten them at all. And in fact, one day there will be a massive conversion among the people of Israel. They will come into God's kingdom. They will receive their Savior and their Lord. They'll get saved. And then you will see the end coming. I'll look forward to walking through the Olivet Discourse with you. Perhaps even read ahead and reread and read it again. I think you'll find that very helpful as we do these next few readings. But I pray that's been a blessing to you. See you in the next video.